All right, Nick, let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes. Obviously, Miami, a lot of great offseason moves so far, great recruiting class, great transfer portal class so far. But Miami, in the way of coaching, has made another really solid hire, another high performer coming out of Colorado. I think this is going to be a really huge move for the Hurricanes going forward. But before we get into that, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Miami getting a really high performing coach out of Colorado in the ways of Damian Lewis, going to be a really solid hire for this Hurricanes team. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, from over on Kane's Warning, says, as first reported by Gabby Ureta and Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports, Miami is hiring former Hurricanes All-American defensive tackle and NFL first-round pick Damian Lewis as defensive line coach. Lewis was Seattle Seahawks assistant coach from 2020 to 2023 and spent the 2024 season as an assistant with Colorado. Miami brings in Lewis to replace Joe Salavia, who left to become the defensive line coach at his alma mater, Arizona. Lewis returns to South Florida, where he was the assistant athletic director of football player development at Florida International in 2019 before being hired by Seahawks. I think this is a great hire for the Hurricanes, bringing back a culture guy, former Hurricane, NFL first round draft pick, Colorado coach. This guy has everything on his resume. He's done a lot of great things to boot. Curious what your thoughts are on this move, Nick. But before we get to you, Hurricanes fans, in the comment section below, let us know. What do you think about this hire? Is it an A? Do you love it? Do you think this is now the most dominant defensive line coaches in all of college football with Taylor and Lewis? Do you hate it? Is it an F? Is it just mediocre? Is it a C? Let us know your thoughts on this one in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest move down in Miami?
I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that Lewis, first of all, he's got a great pedigree, obviously. So he's certainly well qualified, a lot of great experience. But I like the fact he came from the Colorado Buffaloes. And here's why. The Buffaloes did one of the better jobs in recruiting with less than any team in the country. And obviously, we know Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, they get a lot of buzz, they get a lot of media attention. But the reality is, recruiting generally is done in today's day and age with dollars, NIL, things like that. That's just the way it is. The Colorado Buffs, without most of that money, without nothing even remotely close to their top competition, did a really good job recruiting, did a really good job in the transfer portal. And I think a lot of that had to do with Deion Sanders hiring great recruiters and great coaches. And I think that's exactly what Lewis is. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, he gets a lot of credit for being, a media guy, a marketing genius. He certainly is all those things. But one of the things he does really well somehow, just maybe because he played the game at such a high level and understands it from that core concept, is find good quality assistant coaches. Now he's not one batting 1,000, but a lot of his assistants, especially young up and comers, are really top-notch quality guys who understand both the recruiting, player development, X's and O's, in-game adjustment better than just about anybody. They don't get the credit in Colorado because their talent level just is a bit lower than most of the other top 10, top 25 teams in the college football world. But the reality is, a guy like Lewis, what he did at Colorado, I think will translate to even greater success at Miami with much more resources, right? I always love hiring and bringing in assistant coaches that did good things at programs with less resources. If you're in Miami, do you really want to bring an assistant coach from, say, Alabama in some instances? Because he's a guy that is used to, or Texas is probably an even better example, who's used to operating a world with an unlimited budget. And now he has to go to Miami where it's either unlimited or a notch below unlimited. And it's how's he going to get better? How's he going to add value to your program? Whereas you bring in a guy like Lewis, who had to do a lot of great things with fewer dollars in his career. Now he comes to the Miami Hurricanes and in this position coach role, now he knows how to really use that extra boost, that extra dollars, that extra notoriety, that extra emphasis from Mario Cristobal to bring in more recruiting wins, more transfer wins, things like that. This is an opportunity for Lewis. He obviously has a lot of great connections to his Hurricanes program, so you better believe he's going to be committed. You bring in guys like this, hungry assistants who made more with less in prior jobs, it's always a great sign. Sometimes it's not the big name hires, it's not the sexy names that work out great. It's moves like this, quality coaches that are on the way up, that know how to get things done with fewer resources. Nick Saban did this famously in Alabama. We've seen a lot of great coaches do this historically. I think Cristobal is following in that same path here. Kind of really sneaky good move here by the Miami Hurricanes that both in the short, medium, and long term should result in them having a lot of success with improving the quality of play and the quality of talent on the defensive line.
Yeah, and again, we look at what, like you said, Lewis did at Colorado. They did a lot of great work recruiting in that defensive line department. And a lot of people might say, hey, Warren Sapp, Lewis going out and getting guys, you got a Hall of Famer and a guy that was a first round draft pick. These guys can go to any room in the country and say, hey, you want to know how to play NFL defensive line? Come to our school and we're going to be able to tell you how to do it. How could he possibly do that? Well, he just goes to Miami with Jason Taylor. Now, boom, they have the same combo that they had at Colorado, but like you said, more resources, more ability to get things done. I think this is going to be an equally lethal defensive line recruiting combo in Taylor and Lewis. I think this is going to be super good for Miami. I think this is just going to show we're going to see a bevy of defensive line recruitment coming in through this program. And I think we're going to see a lot of improvement because when Lewis came over to Colorado, instantly from year one to year two, and I think there's a lot of factors that played into this, but you look at what Colorado did. They went from averaging 5.42 tackles per loss in a game in 2023, 96 nationally, to now averaging 7.15 tackles per loss in game in 2024, which ranked 18th in the nation. They jumped up a significant amount, almost 70 spots. Then you go in the sack department, they went from being 55th, 2.2 sacks a game in 2023 to now being 11th, jumping up 44 spots, now averaging 3 sacks per game. So the defensive line play, with the addition of a guy like Lewis in 2024, really jumped up significantly. I think he's going to help Miami as well. So both on the recruiting and on the play on the field side, I think Lewis is a sneaky good hire. Solid pickup for Miami. I think we're going to see a lot of good things come out of this move.
And one final point to end on. I always love coaches that can relate to players. You got a guy right here who was a first round pick who played for Miami. He understands what it means to be all about the U. He understands what it means to go in the first round of the NFL draft, which is the goal of every member of his defensive line. Coaches that can relate to players at the positional level are incredibly valuable. One of the reasons why Jason Taylor, I think, is so successful, bringing in another guy to pair with Taylor in the defensive line. Miami was already great at recruiting this position group. They're going to be easily the best in the country in short order. This is a phenomenal hire by the Hurricanes.